My fiancée publicly mocked my job and laughed while her friends watched. I stayed calm and didn't defend myself. What I did after that night cost her far more than the attention she was trying to impress them with. "Oh my God, he literally sits at home and colors all day," she said, and the entire table erupted in laughter. I sat frozen with my wine glass halfway to my lips. The candles flickered between us, casting shadows across faces I barely recognized anymore. Her friend Rachel was wiping tears from her eyes. Another woman whose name I'd already forgotten was literally holding her stomach. And my fiancée, the woman I'd planned to marry in 4 months, was looking directly at me with this triumphant smirk, like she'd just delivered the punchline of the century. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. I'm 31 years old. She's 29. We'd been together for 3 years, engaged for 8 months, and this was supposed to be a celebration dinner at one of the nicest restaurants in the city. Her college friends were in town. I'd taken the evening off specifically for this. Wore the suit she'd bought me for Christmas. Even made a reservation at this place 2 months in advance because she'd mentioned wanting to impress them. "He colors," Rachel repeated, still giggling. Like, what does that even mean? My fiancé leaned back in her chair, clearly enjoying the attention. "He's a graphic designer, but like, not the cool kind who works at agencies or tech companies." She made air quotes with her fingers. "He works from home doing children's book illustrations." The way she said it made it sound like I was unemployed. "So he draws bunnies and stuff?" another friend asked. "Basically," my fiancé said. "Meanwhile, I'm pulling 60-hour weeks at the firm, and he's home by noon most days." That wasn't even remotely accurate. I worked with 3 major publishers. My last project had been a middle-grade fantasy series that sold over 200,000 copies. I'd been featured in 2 industry publications this year alone. But I didn't say any of that. I just set my wine glass down very carefully and reached for my water instead. "Must be nice," Rachel said, with this edge in her voice. "Having that kind of flexibility." "Oh, it's very flexible," my fiancé said. "Sometimes he works in his pajamas until 2 in the afternoon." More laughter. I caught the waiter's eye and gestured for the check. My fiancé noticed. Her smile faltered for just a second. "Babe, we haven't even gotten dessert yet." "I have an early call tomorrow," I said quietly. "With a publisher in London." Time zones. It wasn't a lie. I did have that call. But it wasn't until 10 in the morning, which gave me plenty of time. "Oh, come on," she said, her voice taking on that playful tone she used when she wanted something. "Don't be sensitive." Sensitive. That word hung in the air between us. Her friends had gone quiet now, sensing something shift. "I'm not being sensitive," I said. "I'm being tired. You all enjoy dessert. I'll get a car home." I stood up, put $300 on the table, more than enough to cover my portion and then some. "Babe, seriously?" She was still smiling, but it looked forced now. "It was just a joke." "I know," I said. And I did know. That's what made it worse. I looked at her friends, gave them a polite nod, and walked out of that restaurant into the cool September air. My phone buzzed before I even made it to the corner. A text from her. "You're really going to embarrass me like this?" I didn't respond. Got into an Uber and gave the driver my address. The apartment we shared was in a converted warehouse in the Arts District, the kind of place she loved when we first moved in because it was so authentically creative. Now I wondered if she'd started seeing it differently. Seeing me differently. I let myself in and went straight to my studio. It was the 2nd bedroom, south-facing, with massive windows that caught the morning light perfectly. My drafting table sat in the center, surrounded by shelves of reference books, art supplies, and framed covers from projects I'd completed. On my computer screen was the half-finished illustration I'd been working on, a dragon curled around a tower, protecting a sleeping child. I sat down and stared at it. My phone buzzed again. Then again. I turned it face down and didn't look. Instead, I opened my laptop and pulled up my email. There was a message from my agent that I'd been avoiding all week. The subject line read, "Netflix opportunity, need answer by Friday." I'd been copied on a thread between my agent and a production company that was adapting one of my illustrated series into an animated show. They wanted me to come on as a creative consultant and storyboard artist. 6-month contract. In-person position at their studio in Los Angeles. The money was significant, more than I'd made in the past 2 years combined. But it would mean relocating, at least temporarily. I'd mentioned it to my fiancée 2 weeks ago, and she'd laughed it off. "You're not seriously considering that," she'd said. "We're getting married in February." And I just made junior partner. I can't just up and move. I hadn't brought it up again. Had been planning to decline the offer. But sitting there in my studio, remembering the way she'd looked at me across that table, something crystallized. I hit reply and typed out 4 sentences. Told my agent I was interested. Asked what the timeline looked like for starting. Requested a contract draft. Clicked send before I could second guess it. My phone started ringing. Her name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. She called 3 more times. On the 4th call, I answered. Where are you? She demanded. Home. I know you're home. Why did you just leave like that? I leaned back in my chair and looked out the window at the city lights. You called my career a joke in front of your friends, I said calmly. I didn't see much point in staying. I didn't call it a joke, she said, her voice rising. I was just being funny. They were asking about what you do, and I was trying to make conversation. You made it sound like I'm unemployed. Oh my God, you are being sensitive. There was that word again. Maybe, I said. Or maybe I'm just tired of being the punchline. Silence on the other end. Then, this is ridiculous. I'm coming home. The dinner's not over. Well, you ruined it anyway. She hung up. I sat there for another 20 minutes before I heard her key in the lock. She came into the studio without knocking, something she knew I hated. We need to talk, she announced. Okay. You completely embarrassed me tonight. I turned to face her. She was still in her dress, her makeup slightly smudged from the humidity outside. Still beautiful, but I felt nothing looking at her except a distant sort of sadness. I embarrassed you, I repeated. Yes. Walking out like that, throwing money on the table like some kind of dramatic scene. Rachel texted me asking if we were okay. What did you tell her? I told her you were having a bad day. That's generous. She crossed her arms. What is your problem right now? Do you respect what I do? I asked. The question seemed to catch her off guard. What? My work. Do you respect it? Of course I do. You told your friends I color for a living. I was simplifying. You made it sound trivial. She sighed, like I was being exhausting. Look, I'm proud of you, okay? But you have to admit, what you do is very different from what I do. I'm in court. I'm negotiating million-dollar settlements. More important, I finished. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. She stared at me. Where is this coming from? It's been coming for a while, I said. I just didn't want to see it. See what? That you look down on me. That's insane. Is it? I pulled up my phone and scrolled back through our texts from the past month. Here. You texted me last Tuesday asking if I could pick up your dry cleaning, since you're home anyway. You were home. I was working. From home. Same thing. No, I said. It's not. I kept scrolling. Here's one from 3 weeks ago. You told your mom I had a very flexible schedule when she asked why I couldn't make your cousin's wedding. You did have a flexible schedule. I had a deadline with Penguin Random House. I told you that. She threw her hands up. So now I have to memorize your calendar? You just have to stop treating my work like a hobby. Her face hardened. You know what? Fine. I'm sorry, I don't think drawing pictures is as stressful as actual law. There it was. The truth underneath everything else. Actual law, I repeated. You know what I mean. I do. That's the problem. She looked at me for a long moment. Are we really going to fight about this? I don't think we're fighting, I said. I think we're finally being honest. Something in my tone must have registered because her expression shifted. Became worried. What does that mean? I thought about the email I'd sent an hour ago. About the contract that was probably already being drafted. It means I need to think about some things. What things? Whether this is working. Her eyes went wide. Are you serious right now? Over one comment at dinner. It wasn't one comment, I said. It's been hundreds of little things over months. Tonight was just the first time you said it in front of other people. Said what? That you think I'm less than you. I never said that. You don't have to say it directly. She stood there, her mouth opening and closing. Finally. So what? You're breaking up with me. I don't know yet. You don't know? Her voice cracked. We're supposed to get married in 4 months. I know. I have a dress. We have deposits. My parents already sent out save the dates. I know, I said again. She started crying. Real tears, not the manipulative kind she sometimes used. Please don't do this, she said. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry I made that stupid joke. I'll tell Rachel I was wrong. I'll post an apology on Instagram if you want. I don't want an Instagram apology. Then what do you want? I looked at her, this woman I'd planned to spend my life with, and realized I didn't have an answer. Or maybe I did, and it just wasn't one she could give me. I want you to see me, I said. Actually see what I do and respect it. Not just tolerate it or treat it like a cute quirk. I do see you. You told your friends I sit at home and color. I was being reductive. People do that. It's called conversation. You were being dismissive. There's a difference. She wiped her eyes, smearing her mascara. I can't believe you're doing this over something so small. And that right there was the entire problem in one sentence. She thought it was small. I'm going to sleep in the studio tonight, I said. Are you kidding me? I need space to think. We live together. Where am I supposed to go? The bedroom. Like normal. I'll be in here. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. This is insane. You're being insane. Maybe. Don't do this, she said, her voice desperate now. Please. We can talk about this. We can figure it out. We can talk tomorrow, I said, when we've both calmed down. She opened her mouth to argue, then seemed to realize I wasn't going to budge. Turned and left, slamming the door behind her. I heard her crying in the bedroom. Heard her on the phone with someone, probably Rachel, talking about what an asshole I was being. I pulled out the couch in my studio and lay down, staring at the ceiling. My phone buzzed. An email from my agent. Amazing news. They're thrilled. Contract draft by tomorrow morning. Start date is October 15th. This is huge. Congrats. October 15th was 3 weeks away. I should have felt panic. Should have felt something other than this strange, calm certainty. But all I felt was relief. The next morning, I woke up to silence. No sounds from the bedroom. I checked my phone and saw a text from her, sent at 6 a.m., going to mom's for the weekend. We'll talk when I get back. I made coffee and sat down at my computer. The contract was waiting in my inbox. 6 months guaranteed, with an option for extension. Housing stipend included. Start date October 15th. They wanted an answer by Friday. Today was Wednesday. I read through it 3 times. Then I called my agent. Tell them yes, I said. She squealed on the other end of the line. We talked logistics for 20 minutes, relocation, timeline, what this could mean for my career. When I hung up, I felt lighter than I had in months. I spent the rest of the day packing. Not everything, just the essentials. My art supplies, laptop, important documents, clothes for a few weeks. I'd figure out the rest later. By Sunday evening, I had 6 boxes stacked by the door. That's when she came home. She walked in, saw the boxes, and froze. What is this? I got a job offer, I said. In Los Angeles. I'm taking it. Her face went white. You're what? I'm moving to LA. For 6 months, maybe longer. When? I leave on the 12th. That's less than 2 weeks. I know. She looked at the boxes, then at me, then back at the boxes. You're leaving me. I'm taking a job. It's the same thing. I didn't argue because she wasn't wrong. We can do long distance, she said, the words tumbling out fast. People do it all the time. 6 months isn't that long. We can visit each other. I have miles saved up. We can make it work. I don't think we can. Why not? Because you don't respect what I do, I said. And I don't think 6 months apart is going to change that. So you're just giving up? I'm choosing myself. She laughed, but it was hollow. Choosing yourself. That's really what you're going with. It's the truth. The truth is you're running away because I hurt your feelings. The truth is you've been hurting my feelings for months, and I've been ignoring it because I wanted this to work. Wanted, she repeated. Past tense. Yeah. She sat down on the couch, hard. I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe it took this long, I said. She looked up at me, and for the first time, I saw actual understanding in her eyes. Not agreement, but understanding. You've been checked out for a while, haven't you? Yeah, I admitted. Why didn't you say anything? I tried. You didn't want to hear it. Remember when I asked if you liked my work? That was months ago. You said it was nice. It is nice. I showed you an illustration that took me 40 hours. That was going to be the cover of a book. And you said it was nice, and went back to scrolling on your phone. She flinched. I didn't realize. I know you didn't. That's the problem. We sat in silence for a long time. Finally, she said, what about the wedding? We should cancel it. Just like that. Would you rather wait and see if we can salvage something that's already broken? She started crying again. I love you. I know, I said. But I don't think you like me very much. That's not fair. Maybe not. But it's honest. She wiped her eyes. So this is really it. Yeah, this is it. What am I supposed to tell people? The truth. That we wanted different things. My mom is going to be devastated. I know. I'm sorry. She laughed bitterly. You're sorry. That's great. That really helps. I didn't respond. She stood up and grabbed her purse. I'm going back to my mom's. You can have the apartment. I don't want to be here right now. Okay. She stopped at the door. For what it's worth, I really am sorry about the dinner thing. I know. It wasn't meant to be cruel. I know that too. She nodded slowly. Good luck in LA. Thanks. She left. I stood in the middle of our apartment, my apartment now, I guessed, and felt absolutely nothing. No regret, no second thoughts, no urge to run after her. Just quiet. The next week moved fast. I hired movers for the furniture I wanted to keep. Told the landlord I'd be breaking the lease. Had an awkward phone call with her father where he tried to convince me to reconsider, and I politely declined. Her mother sent me a long email about how disappointed she was, which I read once and then deleted. My own parents were surprisingly supportive. If you weren't happy, you weren't happy, my dad said. Better to know now than 5 years and 2 kids later. By the time October 12th rolled around, I had everything I needed packed into my car. My agent had helped me find a short-term rental in Burbank, close to the studio. I'd start work on the 15th, which gave me a few days to settle in. I took one last look at the apartment before I left. At the space that was supposed to be the beginning of our life together. At the walls we'd painted together. At the kitchen where we'd cooked hundreds of meals. And I felt grateful, not for the relationship ending, but for the clarity. For finally understanding that sometimes love isn't enough. You need respect too. You need to be with someone who sees your passion and thinks it's beautiful, not trivial. Someone who doesn't use your career as a punchline. I locked the door and dropped the keys in the landlord's mailbox. Pointed my car west and started driving. The studio job was incredible. The team was talented, passionate, and treated my illustrations like they mattered. The creative director, a woman named Keiko, told me in my first week that she'd fought to get me on the project because she loved my eye for emotional storytelling. Nobody asked me to pick up their dry cleaning. Nobody made jokes about coloring books. I got to work on something I cared about with people who understood why it mattered. 3 months in, my agent called with more news. A publisher wanted to do a coffee table book of my illustrations. An art gallery in Portland wanted to do a show. And Netflix had extended my contract for another 6 months with a significant raise. I said yes to all of it. In February, on what would have been my wedding day, I woke up in my apartment in Burbank and went surfing. I'd learned how during my first month in California, and it had become a weekend ritual. The ocean was cold and gray, but the waves were perfect. I paddled out past the break and sat on my board, watching the horizon. My phone buzzed in my car back on the beach. I knew without looking that it was probably her. She'd texted me a few times over the months. Angry at first, then sad, then attempting casual friendship. I'd responded politely but briefly. We had nothing left to say to each other. When I got back to shore and checked my phone, I was right. A long message about how she'd been thinking about me, how she wondered if we'd made a mistake, how maybe we could try again. I read it once. Thought about the life I'd built in 3 months. About the work that fulfilled me. About the respect I'd found, both from others and from myself. And I wrote back, I hope you're well. I'm not interested in trying again. Take care. Deleted her number. Went home and spent the rest of the day working on a new piece, a phoenix rising from ashes, commissioned for a young adult fantasy series. The irony wasn't lost on me. That night, I got dinner with some people from the studio. We talked about animation techniques and color theory and the projects we were passionate about. One of them, a storyboard artist named Chris, asked what I was working on next. I told him about the gallery show. His eyes lit up. That's incredible. I'd love to see your work sometime. I'd love to show you, I said. And I meant it. Because that's what it comes down to really. Finding people who want to see your work. Who think what you do matters. Who don't need you to be something else to be worth their time. My ex-fiancée had wanted me to be impressive in ways that fit her narrative. And when I wasn't, she'd made me small. Not because she was cruel, but because she genuinely couldn't see the value in what I did. Walking away from that wasn't dramatic. It was necessary. It was choosing a life where my passion wasn't a punchline. Where sitting at home and coloring was actually creating art that touched people. Where I wasn't just tolerated, but celebrated. 6 months after I left, the animated series premiered. My name was in the credits. My illustrations were the foundation of the entire visual style. Critics called it stunning and emotionally resonant. It got nominated for 3 awards. I flew back to accept one of them. At the ceremony, I ran into someone who knew my ex. They told me she'd seen the show, that she'd posted about it on social media, saying something vague about supporting the arts. I smiled and changed the subject. Because her opinion didn't matter anymore. What mattered was that I'd bet on myself. Had chosen the hard conversation, the difficult goodbye, the uncertain future. And it had led me here. To a career I loved. To respect I'd earned. to a life that was mine. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to defend yourself. To let the disrespect sit there, exposed and ugly, without trying to minimize it or explain it away. To simply stand up, walk away, and build something better. That's what I did. And I've never looked back.